Hey guys, Greg here from the Ballistic Barbecue channel, shooting another video recipe for Primo ceramic grills. Today we're going to be doing a Boston butt on the Oval XL. All right, so here's the meat, Boston butt. Depending on where you live, it may be called a pork butt, pork shoulder. It's all the same thing. And it has nothing to do with the rump of the pig. It's actually called the Boston butt because in the colonial days, this is how the butchers in Boston cut them, and they were preserved in large barrels called, butt. So here we go. This is the fat cap side up. Now this particular cut, the one that I have here, the fat cap's really not that thick, but we do want to take it down a little bit. Now this is something where you'll get into a little bit of controversy on like some of the forums. You'll start some arguments, but I like to cut mine down to like 1/8 of an inch thick. And I just want it nice and even here. You're never going to render out a full fat cap on one of these Boston butts. Never. So that's why I like to trim it down. All right, shoulder's been trimmed. Give it a quick rinse with some fresh water. Patted it dry. In case I didn't mention this before, this is an 8-pound shoulder bone-in. And you want to try to get bone-in. Bones just add a little bit more flavor. And you actually use the shoulder blade bone to kind of help you tell when it's done. So what I'm going to do now is take some extra virgin olive oil and we're going to rub this onto the shoulder. This is going to help that rub adhere to the meat. And it's also going to help the rub penetrate the meat. Just want to make sure we get it all nice and rubbed down here, top and bottom, front and back, whatever you want to call it. All right, we're going to apply the rub now. And we want to make sure we're very generous with the rub. Just use whatever rub you like, your favorite rub. Personally, I like something that's got some sweet and a little bit of heat. That's the flavors I like. Like I said, we're just going to apply this very generously. We want to make sure if there's any creases, any little bitty flaps like this one here, we get it in there. All right, I have my spice rub applied to all sides of this pork shoulder. What I'm going to do now is wrap it up tightly with plastic wrap, place it in the fridge. We want to leave that in there between 1 to 3 hours just to allow time for that rub to set. And we're going to pull it out of the fridge an hour before we put it on the cooker. So see you in a bit. All right guys, shoulder was in the fridge for 3 hours. Pulled it out. We're going to be cooking in an hour. So what I want this to do is come up to room temperature. That's actually going to help accelerate the cooking process of this big old piece of meat here. Our next stop will be outside at the Primo Oval XL. See you in a bit. All right guys, pork shoulder is out of the fridge. Been out now for about an hour. We're ready to get this Oval XL cooking. I want to show you how I have the charcoal set up. So I'm using lump charcoal. And I have it built up into a mound. I made sure that I did not obstruct these vent holes that are in the lower portion of the firebox. And I have the charcoal coming up to where it's just below the edge of the ring here. We're going to use one of these quick lights to get this thing going. And we're just going to light this in one spot. I'm going to go ahead and do it right here. We're going to let this get going here. I want the lump to start igniting. All right, so as you can see, this area where I put that quick start is nice and ignited now. That lump is lit. I'm going to allow this to burn for about 5 minutes with the dome open. All right, that 5 minutes has passed. Now we're going to start adding some wood. What I'm adding is some small chunks of apple wood, and I like the lighter fruit woods when it comes to pork. You know, your apple, peach, and pecan. Some of the light nut woods are really good too. So I'm going to go ahead and add these. And what I'm trying to do is space these about the pile of lump so that I can guarantee a decent smoke for about 2 to 3 hours. We do not want to over smoke this meat. That creates a bitter flavor. So if you are going to err on the light side when it comes to the wood. That should be about right. All right, we're going to go ahead and place those heat deflector racks. Add the heat deflectors. All right, on top of the deflectors, we're going to add an aluminum drip pan. You need to make sure that it's under 3 inches deep. This one is 2 3/4 inch deep. To that, we're going to add 2 liters of Dr. Pepper. Coca-Cola will work fine. All right, now this Dr. Pepper is going to ensure that there's going to be moisture in that environment. It's going to evaporate slowly as the pork cooks, but it's also going to add a little bit of a flavor element, you know, that nice kind of sugary, caramely flavor. Here we're going to go ahead and add the grates. Now we're going to add that pork shoulder. Now I'm putting it fat cap down. All right, fat cap up, fat cap down. Another source of debate. Old school of thought is fat cap on top, fat renders, the fat goes through the meat fibers, kind of keeping it tender and moist. That's been kind of disproven on the competitive circuit. The new school of thought is fat cap on the bottom where the heat is coming up, helps the meat from drying out. I've done both ways. I actually like fat cap down best. That's what I'm doing. All right, we're going to go ahead and take wireless thermometer now, and I'm going to insert this in the thickest part of the muscle. Make sure you do not hit that bone. It'll give you a false reading if you do. We're going to go ahead and close the lid. I'm going to open the top damper all the way. Bottom dampers all the way open. Going to go ahead and monitor the temperature on the dome, looking for 200 degrees. Once it hits that, we'll make some adjustments. Show you that in a sec. As far as the meat's concerned, we're going to just monitor that internal temp on the meat till it hits 200 degrees. All right, so as you can see, dome's up to 200. What I'm going to do now is close the lower damper to about 1 inch open. Then I'm going to fully close the top damper, fully open the daisy wheel. I'm going to use the 2 dampers to just make some fine adjustments to the temperature of this dome. And what I'm looking for is 225 to 250. I want to keep it within that range. So it's pretty simple running this cooker. If you want more heat, you just allow more air to go in. If I start rising above that 250, however, just close the daisy wheel a little bit, restrict some of that oxygen flow, and the temperature will fall. It's almost as easy as running an oven in your house. All right, as you can see, we're now at 225 degrees inside the cooker. I'm probably going to let it rise a few more degrees. You'll find that once the ceramic gets fully saturated, it will run itself. I mean, it's truly amazing. The other thing I'm looking at is my smoke. I have now this nice kind of a blue transparent smoke, which is good. What I'm going to do now is just monitor the internal temperature of that meat. And again, once it hits 195, 200 degrees, we'll be pulling it and then moving on to the next step. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, for those of you who may be watching this video with plans on doing your very first pork shoulder cook, you need to know about what we call the stall, the dreaded stall. Basically what's happening, you're watching the internal temperature of that meat rise steadily. It's going to hit right around 175 or so, beep, flat line. And you're going to wonder what the heck is going on. Well, here's what's going on. Basically, the cook is forcing the moisture of that meat to the center of its core, right where your temperature probe is. And it's going to lock out on that 175. Eventually, it'll break. It may take an hour or two, but it will break. Don't panic and crank up the temperature of the cooker. Just ride it out. Once it breaks, it's going to start climbing steadily again. All right, guys. So we've hit the 200 degree mark. Now it took just under 8 hours, which is about right for a piece of meat this big. You're looking at usually around 1 hour per pound. Again, this is about an 8-pounder. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and pull this. We're going to foil this piece of meat. What I'm going to do is wrap it in a towel after I foil it, put it in a cooler, and we're going to let it rest for about an hour. This will allow those juices to redistribute. See you in the house. All right, guys, the pork is rested about an hour and it's ready to pull now. What I like to do is place it in a disposable aluminum pan. That way it just keeps my work surface nice and clean. First thing we're going to do is pull out that shoulder blade. As you can see, it comes out nice and clean. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. Take a couple forks or those fancy tools they sell and just start kind of tearing into it like this. Or you can use your hands. And what I'll do is use my gloved hands and I'll just kind of go in there, kind of smash it apart here. Anything that's scrappy that I do not want to eat, like big blobs of fat, I'll place in another pan that I have sitting next here for the stuff that's going to go in the trash. And there you go. You can see where we're going here. Just shredding this apart. You can see how tender and juicy this is. Nice smoke ring. This is good. This will make some good sandwiches. All right, on the note of sandwiches, let's make one real fast and try this pork out. All right, we're just going to go for kind of a classic picnic style pulled pork sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and lay some pork down. Now, a lot of people, you know, and I do it a lot too, we'll take a little bit of barbecue sauce and kind of mix it in with the pork at this point. But I got a really good smoky smell coming off here that I want to enjoy. So I'm going to lay down the pork like this. Then I'm going to go ahead and drizzle on some barbecue sauce. Then we're going to add some nice fresh coleslaw. This is that nice crisp, fresh texture. And just for good measure, a couple stripes of barbecue sauce on top of this. And there you go. Let's give this a shot. Very, very good. Again, that just wonderful smoky flavor that apple gives off. Anyway, guys, thank you for stopping by. Hope you like this recipe. Go ahead and check out the Primo channel. I've got a lot more videos coming up. They're exclusively on their channel. Appreciate a sub. Anyway, I will see you on the next video. Cheers.